Hello, everybody. I am here with Wendy Wallace, who, among other things, is editor of Peatsmoke Journal. So I thought it would be cool to speak with some editors and touch base with some other literary publications, other lit mags, get their perspective, learn a little bit about them, see what they do, what they're about. So this is a new thing for us, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these like it. For today, Wendy Wallace, Peatsmoke Journal. First of all, would you like to introduce yourself a bit? Who are you? What's a little bit of your bio background?
Sure, yeah. I can talk a little bit about, both my background and my background with like Peatsmoke at the same time, I guess. So Peatsmoke was sort of conceived after I got my MFA at Purdue. So a friend of mine who I met in the program, and I worked on Sycamore Review together. And after we graduated, we were like, wow, we really miss kind of engaging with the literary community in that way. So we were both kind of post MFA feeling that that sort of void. And my co-founding editor, Bess Cooley, and I decided that we are going to, do something crazy and start a magazine from nothing, which was really exciting. And so, I feel like being a writer and being an editor are things that go so well together. And I feel like my writing is so informed by the work that I do as an editor because it helps you to sort of see what's out there, and also to kind of be engaged with the writing community, to get to see the really amazing work that people are doing, and to sort of spend the time to kind of engage with others' work, and to provide some kind of guidance towards the publication process, which I think we're all so excited about when we put something out into the world. So being to be a part of that is such a gift and a joy, and something that I'm really thankful to Bess for helping to make happen. So yeah, we conceived of the idea in 2017, and then we released our first issue in 2018. And we've been going strong since. It's been something that's kind of gaining momentum. We've gained staff since then. We have some really fabulous readers, editors, and yeah, we've had the joy of being able to publish a piece of artwork with every single one of the pieces that we publish. So our amazing art editor, Shagufta Mullah, is kind of the brains behind that. It used to be Bess and I going through and finding that art. And now we have someone who does that, and she has the absolute brilliance to find these sort of like thematic through lines between the art and the pieces that we're publishing, which is so incredibly cool. But yeah, so it's been kind of a passion project. I had to learn how to create a website, which was a nightmare. I don't recommend it. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and such a great way to kind of be in conversation with other writers and the literary community. So I feel incredibly lucky to be doing it.
Yeah, awesome. I would just kind of ask a little bit about the origin story of Peatsmoke specifically. Do you have like,
Sure.
is there like an anecdote, or is there a specific conversation, like the light
Yeah.
bulb going off kind of thing of like whose idea was it? How did the initial start
Yeah.
go?
I had just moved to Connecticut, away from Indiana, which is where Purdue is. And I was feeling just like a little isolated initially. I was doing some adjuncting, and that's not a great way to find community initially. So I was having these kind of long conversations with my MFA friends. And in one of those, I just sort of said, wouldn't it be crazy if we started a magazine? And Beth said, it would be crazy. And I said, but we should do it, right? She said, sure. So that was the first conversation was that was it. And then so we started creating like a list of names. We had like a Google Doc with just like all of these things that we needed to do. And the first thing was names. And the thing that kind of we remembered about our own origin story when we met each other was that we both discovered kind of on our first conversation that we really like Scotch. And so one of the first things that we did together out for drinks was both of us ordered a Scotch. And so that's where the name Peatsmoke came from. And it was sort of like a nod to something about both of us. And so that's really it. There's not any deeper meaning than that, except that like both of us like Scotch. And we just thought it was kind of a fun tribute to that kind of like early thing in our friendship.
I got a next question. What's your favorite smoky scotch? Do you have a go-to or
Yeah, I do. Laphroaig is kind of my jam. I really love a lovely Laphroaig. And I'd say my favorite cocktail is a penicillin. And I have a friend who makes it with Laphroaig, and ooh, it is so good. So yeah, that's definitely my go-to. And I know last time I asked Bess, she was on a Talisker kick, but I'd have to check back in and see what her Scotch du jour is.
nice? Yeah, I'll take either one. I'm not picky. Um,
Nice.
I although I do like the heavily peated ones, Kalilo is
Mhm.
always kind of my
Ooh,
favorite. It's a little milder, but still a decent amount of smoke to it.
yeah, that's
But
a,
yeah,
that's a great choice also. Yeah.
love the coastal, whether it's
Oh
smoky or
yeah,
not. I love the coastal
absolutely.
profile.
Nice, nice.
Um,
Glad to hear that you appreciate the Scotch as well. That's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. We could go on a very long tangent if we wanted to, but we'll
Sure.
maybe after we stop recording.
Yeah,
Um,
later.
but yeah, there is even just to make the obvious connection of like there is a little bit of that stereotype or just there is a little bit of a parallel of like
Hmm.
drinking, writing, kind of. I mean, there's a long tradition history of those two things kind of like intersecting at different
Hmm.
points. So having a journal named after a Scotch or having that be part of the origin story doesn't seem too outlandish at all, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, so the name, the origin, your co-editor, Bess,
Hmm.
and Bess Cooley is her name. Is
Yes,
that right? Okay.
that's right.
Give her a shout out. Um,
Absolutely.
and then, yeah, just in terms of like what Peatsmoke is,
Mm,
like you mentioned, that one of the big things for Wild and Journal, as well as the feature artwork, as well as the literary work,
hmm.
and then specifically in Pete Smoke, each literary work is paired with an art piece.
Yeah.
So was how did that come about? Was that something initially that was appealing? Is there anything in the Pete Smoke, for lack of a better word, like brand, like the profile of what you envision Pete Smoke to be, other elements that are essentials?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, one of the things that we do really love is having this kind of like visual experience as well. And yeah, that's something that I think is really lovely about it and is lovely, I think, both for the artist and for the author to kind of see their pieces in conversation with each other. And yeah, I think that's something that Wild Roof Journal does so beautifully also. And not every magazine does that. And sometimes you'll get like an image from like Unsplash or something, which is also totally lovely. But I think having two creators kind of seeing their pieces in collaboration in this way, I think is really, really cool. And so yeah, it's something that we were excited about initially, but we didn't have enough art submissions in our first like very early issues to make it happen. And as soon as we did, we were like, wow, we'd love to kind of make this a reality for ourselves. And one of the really cool things also that our art editor does is she writes these amazing alt text descriptions of every single one of the pieces that we feature as well. And they are poetry and art in themselves. So one of the things that we try to do is find those ways to have accessible experiences for everyone who's experiencing the journal. So for those people who are visually impaired, being able to kind of experience the art in this way also is something really lovely, and that I'm so thankful to Shagupta for making happen. And that is something that is kind of a founding principle of Peatsmoke as well, is this accessibility. So one of the ways that we are accessible is, of course, we're an online journal. We have no paywalls. So all of the art and writing and everything that we publish and that you experience, of course, you can experience for free, which is something that was very, very important to us from the beginning. Additionally, we always offer either free submissions for everyone or free submissions for marginalized writers. So we always have a marginalized writers section in which you can self-define what that means to you. And we want to make sure that we kind of are opening those gates and opening those doors for people who traditionally may have had doors shut upon them. So whatever that might mean for you, we have that option always. And so that's something that we really care about. And in terms of the design of the website as well, we make sure that we're making design decisions that are easier to access for people who may have trouble navigating websites. So that's something that we were kind of thinking about quite a bit also. So that's incredibly important. And also that translates into the types of writers that we tend to publish. We want to make sure that we are trying to create a platform for people of all diverse backgrounds. And so that includes queer people, LGBTQIA plus people, people who are neurodivergent, people from BIPOC backgrounds. And disability is also something that is really on the forefront of both of our minds. For me, as a queer disabled writer, and also for Bess, who has worked with people with disabilities in her background as well. These are conversations that we have a lot and are extremely important to us. So we've also been so lucky to get to publish so many people with diverse backgrounds, and to have people trust us with their stories, with their narratives. That is such a privilege and a joy. So we feel so thankful for the writers who have said, okay, we will trust these extremely difficult, beautiful, and essential urgent stories with Peatsmoke. So, huge shout out to all of those writers who have sent their work to us and have said, okay, like I can hopefully trust that they will treat these narratives with care, and we do our very, very best to do so. And we also, with our artists as well, we've published artists of all different backgrounds also, and we feel extremely grateful to be able to do that.
What about, I don't want to get too technical with like the web design aspect of
Sure.
it, but actually there's the visual presentation more or less,
Right.
which is important for any online platform. But like you
Yeah.
said, to make it as accessible and easily viewed as possible.
hmm
Are there any things that you've run into, or any things that you've kind of like found out work particularly well? And even like especially like
mm
laptop versus mobile. I mean, are there
hmm
things that you found like actually like, oh yeah, that's an easy way to do it, or that's a good way to do it if it's not easy. I
Yeah.
know larger text is one thing
hmm
that on Peatsmoke more than
Yeah.
larger than average in terms of what
Yes.
you see online. And then you mentioned
Yes.
alt text for the visual art.
hmm
Are there any
That's right.
other aspects?
Yeah, I mean, we also try to make sure that there are links in multiple different places, so it's very easy to kind of like link from one place to the next. So that's something that we do. And yeah, the larger text, having alt text, and that's something that I don't see nearly as often, and I would love to see more of in other magazines, is more of a use of alt text. We use it in all of our social media posts as well. But yeah, so thinking about layout also, so really clean, having multiple different ways to navigate to places. So you can click on images, you can click on, the different texts. So yeah, trying to think about how to make things as clean and as streamlined as possible is something that we think a lot about. So I spent a lot of time like reading design manuals, which sounds like kind of intense. But yeah, trying to create as simple and as clear a design as possible. And we work with kind of like the Squarespace platform as well, which I have been pretty happy with. There's always a way for that to be improved, but yeah, so there are a lot of things that you can do that way. And our web editor, Brittany Clater, is really fabulous with working within Squarespace and sort of like suggesting ways to make things a little bit more accessible. So we're always improving. We're always trying to get better. And yeah, huge shout out to Brittany too for all of the amazing work that she does to get everything to work exactly as it should. So yeah, I'm thankful to be able to hand over that work to her, and she's really innovative and really clever with all of that. So yeah,
Wow, yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't want to. It's always good to have some people who know what they're doing in areas where you're not
absolutely.
super strong. So yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah. So the
absolutely.
web design, that's one that, like you said, it always can be tweaked and improved, but
Hmm.
it's easy to tell when you access something. Oh, this looks nice. It looks clean. It's easy.
Yeah,
It flows. So
yeah.
yeah, when you see it, it's easy to spot. It's just getting it to that state is not always smooth. Yeah, and it just you mentioned a little bit as far as like the writers and artists that you feature.
Hmm.
If somebody's interested in submitting, I guess now might be a good time just to give them the rundown. Is there a preference? How, when, things like that?
Yeah, yeah. So generally, we tend to be open for the latter half of the month. Sometimes we'll be open for a whole month, but we're usually open between the 15th and the 30th or 31st of the month. And you submit on Submittable. And yeah, like I said, we always have either free submissions for everyone or free submissions for marginalized writers are always open. So that's always an option. We are very open to all kinds of aesthetics, and whether it's art or writing, really open. We don't have like one set of aesthetic that we look for. We're really kind of like trying to do different and new things. So yeah, experimenting with different forms is fun. We're always open to that. I think particularly in Flash, Flash has been doing some like really wild stuff lately, which I love. I'm here for it. We've done some erasure poems in the past, which is so cool. Like we've been so lucky to publish some of those. So, feel free to get weird. We're open to speculative also, in all genres, as well as realism and whatever it is you're doing. If you're passionate about it, if you're excited about it, we're excited to read it. So I would never say there's anything that we will absolutely not publish unless, of course, it's denigrating and intentionally unkind, to any particular group, particularly marginalized groups. So obviously we will not even consider that. But other than that, we're kind of open to it. The only thing that I would say is a hard sell for me is talking animal stories. I've been seeing a lot of them lately. So if you're gonna do it, please do it extremely well. And yeah, it's not generally my aesthetic, but if you do something well, I'm here for it. I'm interested. I'll check it out. So please don't view that as a challenge, though. Please don't send me only talking animal stories. But yeah, I'm really open to kind of all different things, as is Beth, as is our entire team. We have so many fabulous readers. And yeah, my assistant fiction editor, is really good at kind of pushing me. So like Lauren is very good at saying like, check this out. I know it's not usually like our thing, but like check this out. This is wild. And I'm excited always when that happens, to see something new, to see something unique. But yeah, we're always looking for stories that feel urgent, that are telling the story that only you can write, telling the experience only you can tell. So that's what I'm particularly interested in. So yeah, really, um, you know, give us a try, and we're excited to check it out.
Yeah, and it's always good and useful as a recommendation for like new writers and like you said, previously unpublished
Mhm.
writers.
Absolutely.
It's nice to know there are publications out there, or at least you got a shot. There's no
You
guarantees or
do.
anything, but
Yeah,
that's not
absolutely.
preventing something from getting accepted. It's like a, first time.
Yeah. So
So
true. Yeah. I mean, I am so excited whenever I see in a bio, this would be my first publication. I perk up. I'm excited. Like I'm so thrilled to see when someone hasn't been published before and that they're sending to us. And we do really frequently publish unpublished writers, and so it's such an honor to be a debut publication for someone. So yeah, if you're feeling like, oh my God, like I never been published before, I don't know if I have a shot, like absolutely you do here. Like we're so much more interested in what you're writing than where you've been published before. We even say it on the website, it's part of our ethos is that we want to give you a shot, and we do not go in thinking like, oh well, this person's been published these places, so like it's much more, we're looking at the piece on its own as a standalone work. And so yeah, and we do nominate for all of the prizes also, so that's something that feels very important to us, is like that extra kind of boost. And so yeah, we're excited to see what you got, regardless of where you've been before, or even if this is the first time you're trying out being a writer. Cool. We're here for it.
Yeah, maybe the last question on the lit mag side of things. Any like general advice for submitters? This could not
Hmm.
necessarily first time submitters, but just like same as me, we've seen a lot of submissions over the years.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, like just what are good, solid, maybe tips or piece of advice for people interested in submitting to Peatsmoke and maybe just even more generally?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I don't really need to see in a bio is a description of what the work is about. And I know that that's pretty across the board, unless an editor specifically says, please give an aesthetic description of what it is that you're doing or what your project is. And I know like Ninth Letter, for example, will have like calls for their online issue and say, explain in your cover letter how it achieves that. That's obviously a place you should do that. But I think generally, and certainly for Peatsmoke, I don't want to go into a piece already with sort of like a meaning imposed upon it. I really like to go into it entirely fresh. So I prefer not to have some sort of description of like, I'm trying to achieve this here. So that's something I'm not really looking for in a bio. So avoid that generally, I think is a good policy. I love fun little tidbits about your life, though. If you want to tell me something silly, or like some fact, or like something about yourself, like that's fun for bios. I love that. That delights me. Um, but then in terms of the submission itself, please make it a legible font. Oh my God, please. And make sure that it's like something very standard. 12-point font is really important. I notice when it's not, as do our readers. And so yeah, something standard, no funny, weird fonts, please. And then in terms of content, you've probably been told this before, but it's really true. That first paragraph really matters. Polishing it up and making sure that that first impression is really doing as much as it can and has the promise of what the rest of the piece is going to do. So putting a lot of pressure on the language, on what that first paragraph and the whole first page is doing. Really kind of asking yourself, is this feeling that kind of urgency from the beginning? Is it kind of working in the way that would draw in a reader? Because of course, if we're publishing something, we also want our readers to keep reading from that first paragraph, from that first page. So putting a lot of pressure on yourself and making sure, is it doing everything that it can? Are those sentences tight? Are they full of spark or image or momentum? Obviously, of course, we will read past that first page. We are always giving a good faith read of the things that you're submitting, and we want to make sure that we're giving them each piece its due diligence. But if by that first paragraph we are engaged, we're going to be much more likely to be reading with excitement and energy throughout the rest of your submission. So that's definitely true. And I do know that there are probably some places that may not read past the first page. So keep that in mind, that may be the case other places as well. So that I think is just general good advice when you're submitting.
Yeah, that's a lot of good advice. Thanks for that. Speaking of bios, one of the things that was intriguing about your bio is you have a history of Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm currently
Yes,
located. So I wanted
yes.
to mention that. What's your connection to Buffalo? Did you grow up there? What was your connection?
Yeah, I grew up in Buffalo, lived there for the first 17 years of my life, and I feel such a strong connection to it.
Mhm.
My Western New York peeps, some love to all of them. I feel like, it's a place that is kind of only characterized by cold and snow, but I want to give a shout out to like the Buffalo spirit, which is so kind and so welcoming and there's sort of like a wonderful neighborly spirit about Buffalo. And that was a place where I was first encouraged as a writer. I had such wonderful teachers in particularly middle school and high school who didn't say like, writing is a waste of time. They said, do it, engage in the creative process. And so I feel so lucky to have had that as kind of like a foundation for me as a writer. And so yeah, I feel so much warmth and so much um, love for Western New York, for Buffalo, for that community that raised me and that encouraged me in my sort of writerly and creative pursuits throughout my life. So I hope that you felt that too. I hope, Erin, that you've had that experience as well.
Yeah, I didn't start writing or getting into the creative arts until a little bit later in life.
Hmm.
But that, yeah, I mean, I can definitely second your assessment of the. It has a little bit of a Midwestern aspect of it, but not much,
Yeah.
not as much, not as much
It's its
as the
own
actual
thing for
Midwest.
sure.
But yeah, it's just kind of its own mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I've lived in this area my whole life, so
Hmm.
it's second nature. So it's interesting to get other people's perspectives, either as visitors or people who've lived here and moved
Hmm.
away or moved back or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is right. Not everywhere is like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is yeah, it's one of the appealing things. And I
Hmm.
guess the seasons have their appeal. I'm more of the summer person,
Yeah.
spring, summer. So I'm
Sure.
not huge and you do what you can to appreciate all the seasons and the changes. But
That's
I
true.
naturally appreciate some of them more than others, I suppose.
Buffalo has a gorgeous summer.
Yeah.
Really gorgeous summer.
That's what I try to tell people. It's like summer is the
Yeah.
best. You want to get outside and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the lake breezes are fabulous. You have this huge body of water. Oh my gosh, the hiking. It's such a beautiful part of the country. Yeah. People
I don't
forget
want to,
that.
I hope I'm not going to come across as too crass or negative, but like this time of the year, there's a lot of decorations for like fall and autumn and
Oh,
all that stuff. It's like, why no summer decorations? And I say, because you don't need them. You don't need, it doesn't
yeah.
need any dressing up. It's already there for you.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't,
already beautiful.
hey,
Absolutely.
do whatever you want to your front yard. I'm not going down on you. Um, but yeah, well, it meant the decorations are nuts. I don't know. It's like that everywhere, but
Yeah, no, I
um,
feel like it does get particularly wild in Buffalo though. Like people go hard. Like we had a very
yeah,
sort of like Halloween neighborhood for sure where
yeah,
people would like have like labyrinths in their front yards. But also, like a thing that I definitely noticed in Buffalo is like, yeah, there's candy for the kids, but there's also a keg for the adults. And all of the houses, like that's definitely like a cultural thing that I think is pretty maybe not unique to Buffalo, but definitely embraced by Buffalo.
yeah. Back to the Peatsmoke Journal. We know our roots, but yeah, it's part of the culture for sure. Buffalo.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I'm glad I mentioned that, and then really just kind of like just to kind of follow you along the map of the U.S. Then you went to Indiana
Yep.
for Purdue, and then you're in Connecticut currently.
Yes. Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
like as far as like place and writing and kind of how
Hmm.
other influences along the way, like, what have you noticed in terms of living in a few different parts of the country and how you kind of absorb the culture, the scenery, nature, wherever you're
Yeah.
at?
Yeah, I went to undergrad and got my first master's at Bucknell in Pennsylvania. And that was a place that was just like it was, I mean, just cornfields. Which like similar to Indiana, I guess, like very similar experiences, both Pennsylvania and Indiana. Like you become so like immersed with your little community. Which I was really grateful for, honestly. I felt super lucky both like in my master's at Bucknell and also at my MFA at Purdue. You become super close knit with this just like community of people where we're just like, oh my God, it's just us, which is great. In a certain way, there's something lovely about that because then you become so kind of devoted to each other's craft, and the writing becomes so important because there's a lot else to do. And so there aren't any distractions. And so I think in a way that was the influence of the landscape. Not that there isn't beauty everywhere, there is. There absolutely is. And I certainly do feel the influence of being able to kind of like walk along a river and kind of take that in. But yeah, I think you do really kind of spend more time just like reading and focus on each other's writing when that is what you do. But I also feel super lucky now living in Connecticut, being on the train line to New York City and being able to kind of pop into New York and like go to a reading. I went to the Brooklyn Book Festival a couple weekends ago and got to see Kelly Link and Lori Moore and Laura Vandenberg. Like, what a treat! Like, how amazing to be able to get to do that. And to be able to just like pop on the train and do that and meet up with my like wonderful writing group friends and be able to do that. But I've been really fortunate, I think, to develop a writing community that has sustained past physical borders and boundaries. And so be able to still have that supportive network of people who I will chat with on the phone or meet over Zoom every other week. I have a lovely group of writers who we get together every other Tuesday on Zoom. So shout out to my writing group. You guys are amazing. I feel so lucky to have kind of this borderless group of writers who I'm super happy to be able to bring with me everywhere I go. And so that is such an amazing thing. And that's what we've been trying to do with Peatsmoke as well, is have this kind of like borderless group of writers who come together to kind of like passion project away at making this magazine happen. So I feel really, really grateful also to have this fabulous staff of people who are based everywhere from Washington State to Tennessee, to Texas, to New York City also, and have all of these people kind of like come together from all over and to collaborate together to make this thing work. So it's one of the things that I think we are really lucky to have is the ability to kind of like collaborate, across borders in this way that I think is really, really amazing. So sorry, that was a long-winded answer and maybe not even to your question.
No, I definitely share a lot of that experience. Just in the
Yeah.
sense that you're connected with a lot of people across the
Hmm.
country and beyond the country,
Yes.
just through the publication,
Yeah.
and outside of the public, and you have
Hmm.
that ability just to feel connected in that way, and for what it is, having that
Yeah.
having that online connection or remote connection,
Absolutely.
which
And I
yeah,
feel that
certainly
too,
has its
with
benefits.
yeah, with the people that we published as well, Erin, you reaching out to me, I feel so grateful to continue to have kind of like a connection with the people that we've published. And so that feels really amazing too. So, those contributors from the past, like always feel free to reach out, say hi, like I feel a connection to all of you as well and so lucky to have collaborated with and get to work with you with making the magazine happen. It wouldn't exist without the wonderful artists and wonderful writers who we get to publish, and we get to publish from all over the world, which is so absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I guess that's all point not to be lost. Yeah, it wouldn't happen without people sharing their work, submitting, clicking on our
Hmm.
links, and on all that. Um,
Totally.
yeah, so that was case in point, or as I like to say, point in case, because we have as artists we have our bag of pencils. Um,
Right.
I'm trying to coin it, point in case.
I love it.
I submitted I submitted a Peatsmoke, and yeah, back in it was 2020. I
Yeah.
had some artwork published. So yeah, I had
Hmm.
artwork published with each of the literary selections in 2020 issue. I think it's the fall issue.
Yeah.
So then yeah, it was just something that's, oh, this is cool, and obviously gave me an opportunity to create a bunch of pieces, and they got
Hmm.
published and put online. Well, that was really neat.
Yeah.
And
And
so
they're
yeah, like
gorgeous
I
too.
was thank you. But yeah, I was before we started recording, yeah, I was telling Wendy, go, yeah, I was never really forgot about Eat Smoke. It was just kind of, yeah, recommended. Oh, where should I submit? Like we mentioned earlier, oh, okay, you don't have a huge publication record. Here's a handful of good ones. So yeah,
Hmm.
it kind of is one of those things where you keep in touch in a way, whether it's just kind of keeping social media or checking things out online or getting email updates, how it goes.
Hmm.
But yeah, like same thing from my perspective as an editor. It's always great to see what other people are up to with past contributors, and if they submit again. Great. We like to
Hmm.
keep up with people, checking in online, social media, all good
Absolutely.
things. So website, peatsmokejournal.com.
That's
Did I get
right.
it?
You got
And then
it.
you have a Twitter account, which I'll let you share your Peatsmoke Twitter, or it's a Twitter
Hmm.
X. I slipped
Yes.
there.
Yeah. Whatever it
Um,
is now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. At Peacemoke Journal is us. Yeah. At Peacemoke Journal. And we are working on creating an Instagram. So that's coming soon. So can share that very, very soon. So it'll be the same handle at Peacemoke Journal. We'll be on Instagram as well. So that should be in like the next week or so, actually. It's in the works. So
all right.
finally we're getting it done. Yeah, we've let's frame it like this. We've been focusing so much on the writing and the art that we haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to get to Instagram. We're so sorry. But we're working on it.
Well, it's good to hear. So yeah, if it happens before this comes out, I'll post the link, but we'll connect
Very cool.
there when that happens. But yeah, it was great to chat with you for a little bit, learn a little bit more about you and about Peatsmoke, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again, and talk to everybody again soon.
Thanks so much. And thanks to you, Erin, and thanks to Wild Roof Journal, which is amazing. So yeah, thanks to everyone.